Hi guys, welcome to the video. This is another instructional video on how to fix a boombox. The radio works, the cassette player doesn't, and that usually means the belts are knackered on it. So this is basically a tutorial on how to replace the belts on one of these. The model I'm replacing is this machine. It's a Toshiba RT-6016. But most boomboxes are very similar. This is more of a guide really. You've just got to be careful about where the screws are for removing the back or front off the unit, and also getting access to the actual belt. Once you're inside, you might have to remove a few little things. Just got to make sure you don't break any clips, because things are very fiddly, and also make sure that you don't lose anything as well when you take it off. A few tools you'll probably need. You'll need a screwdriver, probably a Phillips end, but you never know, it depends on the type of box. Also a smaller Phillips screwdriver, or even a flat-headed one. These are also useful to feed the belts as well. Instead of using your fingers, you can just use this to feed it onto the pulleys and things. So there, you might need alcoholic wipes to clean the heads. You might as well do that when you're in there, and some Q-tips. So yeah, let's get on with the fix. Okay, so today I'm testing this Toshiba radio cassette recorder to list on eBay. The radio works, just tested that. Unfortunately, the tape player doesn't work. I can show you what I mean. Put it on tape, press play, and you can hear it's making the noises, but these are not spinning. So that means that the belts are gone. The belts are probably all degraded. So I'm going to take the back off and replace them. And when I'm here, I'll also clean up in there. So to take the back off this machine, first off, just make sure you unplug it, because you don't want to be electrocuted. Usually there's screws around the side on the back, and the back will come off. In this particular stereo, there's screws at the top here, so I'm going to undo those, and I think it just unclips. It's probably a cheaper model. And just store these safe somewhere, because you won't want to lose the screws. There's usually a lot more than two, but on this particular stereo it does appear to be basically clipped together. As you can see at the bottom here, there's some clips. So the front panel basically just lift off. What's normally the case when you're taking these things off, it's hard to find out where the screws are, and it still won't come off, but I've just opened the tape door and there's a screw there, so I think that's the one I'm missing. So I'm just going to take that one out. And I'll put that with the other two. And then it should just all lift off. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah, you have to open the door. Sometimes you have to open the tape door before the front panel will come off. All radios are slightly different. So this is a Toshiba RT-6016 for reference. But usually the screws are on the back. Sometimes hidden away in the battery compartments as well. But this one's slightly different. But anyway, I'm going to take this off. It's hard to do one-handed, so I'll take this off and continue from there. Okay, so that's the back removed, and this leaves me with the innards of the machine. It's quite, as you can see, it's quite a cheaply made machine by the looks of things, but at least I'll be able to clean this a little bit easier. And you can see how cheap it is. These literally just rest in place. but I'll have to undo these screws to get to the back of the tape deck so I can replace the belts. Okay, so as I said, I need to remove this, so I'm going to unscrew that now. Looks like there's just 2 screws, different screws than before, so it's important to keep these screws separate to the others. Okay, so hopefully this just lifts off now. An important thing to do is to make sure that you don't break any of these cables. So sometimes you might need to unplug them. Looks like I'm going to get away with it here. I'm literally going to flip this round. So now you can actually see why we're having to replace the belt, because that's the belt, completely destroyed. Pretty manky as well. So using this as a bit of a reference, we should be able to get the right sized replacement belt and then feed it through this area. Looks like it goes along the motor and probably around this, so it will go from here to here, and that basically is the motor, and that will spin this, and in turn that will turn these cogs. Looks like there's only one belt. Sometimes there's a belt that drives the counter on the cassette player, but this particular unit, being a slightly cheaper unit, doesn't have a counter, so just one belt. So this should be an easy fix, fingers crossed. So here I have my selection of replacement belts. You can get these from China in packs of, I think it's 100 belts, and they're just all random sizes. So you usually find that most cassette players use the same sort of size, so once you've used about 5 or 6, you end up with a lot of belt sizes that you don't normally use. So you've got to pick one that's roughly correct, at least as a starting point. It's ideal if you can actually get the perfect size. This looks more or less right, so I'm going to go with this one, and I'm going to fit it now. Okay, so as I said before, it's got to go round this motor and around that. So to get to the back of that, to be able to feed it through, looks like I'm going to have to take this off. This will mean this pulley will completely come off. You can usually get away with just removing one screw, just lifting that very, very slightly and just hooking the belt underneath. It just makes it a lot easier. You don't want to be taking too much apart. And then we've got to figure out how to get the belt underneath this motor. Okay, so I just flipped it around there, and you can see that's where the belt will sit on that motor. So the best thing to do here is to feed it through this gap here. So I've pushed the belt, if I go the other side, I've just pushed it underneath the motor here, and it's just popping out the other side now. It's useful to have something like this, like a little screwdriver, just to hook it and just place it over the motor, like so. It's not so important it stays there for now, because we can put it back on there later. Now it's in position. We need to flip this around and connect it to the cog the other side. So bringing it back round here. Oh, see, this is where it gets difficult if you limited space, and we need to get under here. So we need to unscrew this, take this off, and then just hook this underneath. Okay, so as you can see, I've undone that, so now that lifts off, so I should be able to feed the belt behind this pulley. Had to undo this, but I've just loosened it off just so I can do that, and I'm literally going to pull that. I know that's just fallen off. I'm going to grab that in a minute. That fell off there. This is why it's so important to be careful. But this bit of plastic here is basically got to go in the middle of the belt, so I'm going to have to try and get the belt past that somehow. Okay, so luckily I was just able to just push this motor slightly up, and that allowed me to get the belt past there, and then I've fed it round the pulley here. Now if I pop that back on, I think that went that way. See, this is the problem when you start removing stuff. Yeah, there you go. So I've just got to screw that one back on and that screw back on, and then I'll flip it around and show you the motor. I've flipped it round. Now I can turn this pulley, and you can see the motor is now turning, so that means that it's connecting up okay. So I'm going to put all this back together, and then hopefully the tape will work. So that's the unit back into position. Now it's time to clean all of this out. To do this, I'll use a Q-tip, one of these, or a couple of them, and some alcohol, and that should clean that up a little bit. I'm not going to do a massive job. This is a fairly cheap unit. Just clean the heads and get rid of some of this sort of fluffiness and dust and stuff. Now to clean the heads, all you need is a Q-tip with some alcohol on it, and literally just rub it onto the head. And you can see how dirty it is. So you basically want to do this a reasonable amount. To resell, I wouldn't do it massively, just enough to get a really nice, clear, quality sound. If it was my own unit, I'd probably clean all this up perfectly, but then once you're finished, you could just finish off getting rid of some of that fluffiness again with the dirtier wipe, and just clear some of this stuff off. Okay, that's as clean as I'm gonna do it, I think. As I said, it's a fairly cheap unit. It's not going to fetch a massive amount of money, so I think that will do. I'm going to put the cover on, and fingers crossed the tape will now work. Okay, so that's the unit back together. I've just got to put the screws in here. Another unit, you'd want to flip it over and tighten it from the back, like I said before, but this unit's all from the front. It's actually quite a nice system, because it's only 3 screws and then it just unclips at the bottom. But I guess it's just made cheaply, but it's made it fairly easy taking the back off anyway. Okay, the moment of truth. So, as I said, the radio works. So I'm going to flip it down to tape radio off, put a tape in. Got various old cassettes. This one's the best of Lean and Martel. As I said, I cleaned up that a little bit. The heads are clean. And pop the tape in, press play, and fingers crossed it will play the tape. Excellent, and you can rewind, and it hasn't chewed the tape. I'm gonna turn the volume right down, because I don't want any copyright strikes. Leave it playing for a little while. It's still playing. Press eject, and it hasn't chewed the tape. So if I press play now, you can see that it's working fine. Rewind works, fast forward works, and it plays the cassette at the correct sort of speed and stuff, or near enough anyway to the human ear. obviously the different sized belts will have an effect on that, but I'm pretty sure I got more or less the right sized belt. So yeah, that's how you fix a Toshiba RT-6016. So there you go, guys. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to find out where to buy the belts from, I'll try and put a link in the description. Yeah, most cassette players are sort of similar. Some need 2 or 3 belts, all depending on how complicated they are. This is a fairly simple unit. But yeah, that's now fixed and ready to sell on eBay. It's not worth a great deal, probably about £20 to £25 I'll advertise that one for. But it's a nice looking thing. It's got the silver retro effect on it, which people tend to like. So yeah, a nice maybe half an hour job there, all told in, all in. And I'll get that photograph now and listed.